You want to own a home in Canada, but do you know the true cost of owning a home? One of the biggest mistakes people actually do is not knowing the upkeep cost, the post-purchase cost of owning a home, because it's not just about putting a down payment. So today we're going to find a random home that's being sold or sold. Oh, guess what? We just found one. And we're going to actually calculate what is the true cost of owning this home. Let's check it out.
The first thing we're going to do is go into Google and then obviously put the address. So this is actually the address in the city. I'm going to go in here because I actually have an account. Okay, so what we need is the house price. What it was sold at is $550,000. So it was actually sold for more than asking price, but we don't really need all that information. But anyways, $550,000 for whoever bid and got it, and the mortgage is obviously going to be on that price, so we need that $550,000, and we need the property taxes because that's going to be helpful. I mean, this is 2022. It might be a little bit higher now because it's also based on like all the house values and so on, but let's just use this as a rule of thumb because it will still help us be able to determine what we need to determine.
So we're going to set off the cost in two different aspects. So the pre-purchase costs, we're going to talk about that first, then post-purchase costs, because pre-purchase costs are like your initial cost of putting down payment. I'm going to go into it in a second. And then the post-purchase is keeping it up and so on. And this is where most people are almost shocked at what happens, especially in Canada, because the post-purchase cost is quite some when you are in Canada purchasing a home. Pre-purchase costs. All right, so this will include your down payment, your closing costs. So when it comes to your down payment in Canada, if you're a first-time home buyer, so I'm going to just talk about first-time home buyers because it's a little bit different when you are buying like a second home, third home, because the down payment percentage is different. What it says, if you're a first-time home buyer, there's different eligibility to be a first-time home buyer, so you guys can look that up. I'll put some links in the bio for you guys to know, because it's all like you can't own a home before. There's a timeline where you cannot own a home and so on and so forth. So you guys can check that out. So based on the home that we encountered, for the house value, we'll use the 20% amount just to make it a lot simpler for us to conversate. But in reality, do I say do 20%? No, you don't have to. It all depends on your goals. But for today's video and for the house that we have on our list of price checking and cost checking, we're going to do 20% just to make life easier and calculating easier and so on. Okay, so the house value here is $550,000. 20% of that is $110,000. So you need $110,000 upfront cost. Now, is that it? No. There's also a closing cost involved. This includes like lawyer fees, you know, the realtor fees and everything just included in all of that, the broker fees and things like such. So I say a rule of thumb of 1.5% that you need to add to that. So you have the 20% down, which is $110,000, and then you have the 1.5%, which is $8,250. So you're looking at $110,000 plus $8,250. That equals to $118,250 for your upfront cost to get that home. Knowing these costs are super important, because if you don't know about it, you'll get into the contract and you'll get stuck a lot of times. Because at the end of the day, remember, when a mortgage is approved to you, it is based on your gross income. Yes, they do debt ratio and so on, but it's still not good enough, because at the end of the day, two people can have the same income, but at the end of the day, their expenses could be totally different, because one person might have, let's say, 2 kids and one person is a single person. So now, you know, your after expense cash flow for your budget is going to be so different. So even if you both got approved for the same thing, it won't mean that you can actually afford the same thing in terms of sustaining the cost continuously. And so it's super, super, super important that you know the cost from upfront. And this way you can also game plan. If you're looking to create profits and cash flow, you can game plan ahead of time on paper before the money actually leaves your account and you sign any contracts. So this is super crucial for you guys to actually understand. Now it's time to go into the most important part, which is the post-purchase cost. When it comes to costs post-purchase, you're looking at mortgage costs, property tax, you are looking at utilities, you're also looking at the insurances that you need for protection purposes. Some are not mandatory and some are. We're just going to go with mandatory. First, we're going to go into the mortgage. Mortgage is determined by how much you put down. All right, so if you put down for the $550,000 home, $110,000. That means the rest 80% will go into a mortgage for you to pay into. So in this example of the $550,000 home, you will have to pay a mortgage with a 20% down, around $440,000. So now we're going to use the prime rate that we got earlier.
Honestly, there's a lot of different variables for this amount, but one of the biggest variables is dependent on the prime rate. So we're going to look up prime rate currently in Canada. It's not going to be cute. It's 6.95%. If this was like 3-4 years ago, it would be close to 2%. So you can already tell there's going to be a huge difference. And the mortgage is going to be off the roof, but it's 6.95%.
And use it for this amount of mortgage. All right, we're going to use the mortgage calculator that's on this website. A lot of the realtor websites where there are these houses actually have a mortgage calculator within it. You just need to know what to put in. All right, so I clicked on mortgage calculator. We're going to use the values we need. So we have 550,000, which is the selling price. Down payment, we're doing 20%. You could have chose others. So again, if you're doing less than 20%, go ahead and choose lower. Right now, the minimum prime is 6.95 as I'm making this video right now. Based on what you get pre-approved on, you can add that because prime rate is just the base. A lot of times bank will add another 1 to 2% on top of that. They might. It just depends on what you get approved for. Use your pre-approval rates. We're going to keep it to 25, which is the usual. And then we're not going to add any maintenance for now. We're just going to use the regular amounts that we need, which is the definite amounts. So we have 440,000 that's going into mortgage as spoken of. And we are 3,068 for mortgage payments. Based on the calculation we just saw off of the online calculator, it doesn't use actually any mortgage calculators online to do this, as long as you know the rates and numbers and so on, the house values and the property tax. I'll also leave a mortgage calculator in my link in bio, so you guys can also use for your own purposes to be able to plan. So you guys saw the mortgage came out to $3,068, and the additional $383 was the property tax we saw earlier divided by 12 added to the mortgage on a month-to-month basis. So altogether so far for post-purchase, we're looking at $3,383 just for the mortgage amount to be paid in a 25-year period every single month, plus the property tax now, and also property tax goes up. So we're just talking about the year one. Next, utilities. Utilities, I'm going to take the average in Ontario in this year so far. So it's around $320 or so. Now, this can be a little bit less if it's a smaller home, less people, and it could even be more. My experiences living in a house at a certain time for 5 people was around, I would say, $400. Okay, so I will just use the number 320 for this example. Let's talk about insurance. In terms of insurance, you are looking at, your house insurance, after expires and so on. They have that. You're looking at anywhere, it's not usually huge. You're looking at anywhere from $30 to $50. And you are looking at, this is not compulsory, but sometimes they'll make you do it, is either you get credit protection, like on your mortgage at the bank itself, which is technically a life insurance policy they want you to get, or you get a personal life insurance, so then you actually don't have to opt in for the banks. You actually have that choice. A lot of Canadians do not know that. If you have a personal life insurance, you don't have to get the bank protection on the mortgage. I'm not talking about the CMHC one. I'm talking about the credit protection they require you to get. So because the credit protection at the banks, they cost a lot of times 2 to 4 times than it needs to be costing. Second of all, there's other issues. If you want a different video to talk about why you should have a personal life insurance versus the one insurance they give you at the banks, I can make a whole numeric breakdown plus the rules and the terms, which makes a huge difference on why you should have a personal, but that could be for a different video. Regardless, that insurance, let's say, even at the bank, you're looking at, let's say, another, and this depends on your age as well. So I'm just going to say $150. Okay. So credit insurance, $150 on average. Again, it can be more or less. It just depends what you have. So $150 month to month. So $150 for the life insurance, and then let's say $50 for the house insurance. The last continuous cost. Now this doesn't have to be continuous, but if you do make it continuous, it will actually save you at the end. So I always say put 10% of your mortgage aside for maintenance costs. So in this case, since the mortgage is around $3,000, you would put $300 aside, and in the year that's around $3,600 for any kind of maintenance, repairs, and so on. Now it can be more than that actually, right? But at the rule of thumb, at least for 10%, and we're going to use 10% for this calculation as well. You might have an emergency fund aside, so some people might not need this, but for some people they do need an ongoing maintenance cost to be there. For this case, we're going to use $300. So what is it all together? You're looking at $4,203 month to month to keep your home going and make sure you actually have your home and sustain it. So this is a whole $1,000 increase from just the base mortgage cost. And this is why it is so important, because for instance, if you make $7,000 after tax every single month and your expenses on the usual are, $2,000, $2,500, you're looking at $4,203 going in there as well. So you're after all these expense cash flow might not be as huge as you expect. And if you have a lower income than what I stated just now, you're looking at quite a tight budget. Again, it all depends, because what if you are feeding a family? What if you are paying off some of the other debts, and so on? So it just depends. When if you're like a lot of times people are taking care of their families in Canada, so you have the single home income, but the expenses are in different areas. So this home expense can be quite a lot. By the way, I didn't even include internet. So that's like if you don't want to live with internet. But let's even add internet to this, because that counts. I'm gonna put another $100. It might be less, but I'm just gonna or more, just depends. If we add another $100, we're looking at $4,303 just to be in your home and live. Are those all the expenses in getting a home? We missed out on two big things, and let's talk about that one that a lot of people do not think about, but it's going to come out of your pocket. I'm talking about moving costs and furnishing costs. Now, I don't talk about it in all the other expenses, because this can be so variable and different depending on who is doing the move and so on. So with moving costs, it just depends. If you're doing it with a U-Haul truck, you're doing it by yourself, you will reduce costs. Or if you have a car that is big enough, you will reduce costs. But if you can't do any of that, then you're looking at hiring a moving company, and they're not the cheapest in this world. Okay, the cost of that will also depend on how much you're moving. Is it a 1-bedroom? Is it a 3-bedroom? All those things, and what's the distance of moving as well? Because what if you just moved to a whole different city, right? And in this example, we chose a house in Hamilton. What if you're moving from Toronto to Hamilton? That's a whole 1-hour move, right? So these are things to keep in mind. So moving costs, and then furnishing costs, because you don't want to come into the house and have nowhere to sit on. Okay, so that's a big thing as well. And this cost doesn't have to be all together. The moving cost, it is upfront, right? You got to do that. It's almost like it's way before even the mortgage costs that come up. It is an upfront cost, but furnishing is over time. So with basic furnishing, let's say moving and so on, let's add another 10 grand to the upfront cost that we talked about, which was around $118,250. And let's add another 10 grand. So we're looking at $128,250 within just a year span or so of the upfront costs. And now you also have a $4,303 every single month that needs to be there every single month, because y'all don't want to default on your mortgage, because that's a whole different trouble. So you need to have that to be able to sustain your home. Are these rates fixed? No, because a lot of times after 5 years, your rate can go higher, so your mortgage might go higher, or it can even go lower. It all depends on what's going on with the prime rate in Canada. In the last 2 years, it has gone up by more than 100% for a lot of the homes. So a lot of people are in the brink of defaulting in Canada this year. But nonetheless, these are things to be taken into consideration, because you don't want your income to come in and you want and more than 50% of that income after taxes is taken away by these mortgage amounts. So it's very crucial to remember. And now, if you want to make money off of this home, as in cash flow from this home, you have to have all those costs, which is $4,303, to be met by your renters to be making any kind of profit. So you're charging, like, let's say you charge $5,000 for the whole 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, then you'll make some cash flow, but you can't just put a random rent out there. You still have to see what the surrounding houses are doing in order to know what you can actually charge and what people are willing to pay for it. Something that a lot of people do, which is a big attraction for home buyers, is getting multi-unit homes where there's complete basements, or at least the person might have some money to complete a basement and rent it out, because let's say $1,000 or $2,000 of this can be taken care of by basement renters, let's say, for example, then the owner has less burden on themselves, and so on. So there's some tricks to reduce this. It's not guaranteed, let's say, but other than that, the owner has to take on the full cost of this home or rent it out. If you're gonna rent it out, you might not make cash, but there's a lot of Ontario homes are not cash flowing homes. Yes, they might grow in equity, but they're not cash flowing homes. So I can make a whole different video about cash flowing versus equity, because they're not the same thing. Because you can have $1 million home and make $0 out of it. So there's that. If you found this video helpful, and again, you guys, I have the links to mortgage calculators in my bio. You guys can check that out. And I'll have other links to help you guys out with some of these. I'll even make an Excel sheet to add, so you guys can just pop in your numbers and have that right at hand instead of like going to websites. I'm happy to do that, so I'll add that in the link in the bio. I'm so grateful you reached to this point. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you share, make sure you comment. What did you think? Was the cost a lot higher than you expected, or was it actually lower? I hope he's really surprised if y'all say it's lower, because it's actually a lot. Usually it's a lot more than what people expect. So subscribe, make sure you like, comment, and share, because this, I think, will help a lot of people to not get bamboozled by the crazy cost of owning a home in Canada. For some people, it can be crazy. For some people, it might not be. That conversation is also very subjective. So regardless of that, it's always good to know beforehand, before money leaves your pocket. So till next time, make sure you keep on learning so you can keep on earning.